just a bit of a background. We've had over 3,000 people attending the different events, 15 cruises in the last years. And it's all not just about better connection, but I mean, the main reason is to connect everyone really, really well, because I've been a nomad myself already actually over 15 years. And I always found it so difficult to meet people, and then you meet them for 1 or 2 weeks, and then you're leaving again. And I always thought, wouldn't it be much better if the friends that I make on the cruise or that I make while I'm traveling would be the same, would have the same friends, like we all would share the same friends together, right? Because if you travel by yourself around the world, you will have 300 people, but they all don't know each other. So the idea of Nomad Cruise is actually to build a community that's traveling together where people know each other. And this has been like paying off in so many ways that there are collaborations, there are Nomad Cruise babies, weddings, yeah, a lot of businesses. People have been coming back, like some over 7 times on the cruise. So it's really became like a really, really strong knit community, but there's also always on every cruise about 50% newbies as well. So it's always a mix, but it's really about like just sharing the same friends. So you're not building like a network, and then after a while, like once you've been traveling around the world for a little bit, you just end up like trying to visit all these people again. Whereas when you're part of one community, or like a little bit like what Bansko Nomad Fest is as well, that we're all coming here oftentimes just to meet people again that we've met all over the world. So now I want to talk in this talk about organizing events and how I did this, and what you can do as well. And the talk is structured into a few different things. So the event preparation, the marketing, and then what you do after the event. So the first question anyone who wants to organize events for nomads is, are nomads actually really the best audience to organize events for? Because as you all know, we are not like always willing to pay like 2,000 euros to go on a retreat. We want to travel all the time. We all know like how to get things free everywhere. So it's not necessarily the best audience, in my opinion. I just kind of jumped into this, but it's really something to think about. Like, who is actually your audience? Are your audience the nomads who are actively traveling around the world, or are your nomads those who really want to have this lifestyle and who want to like maybe dive in? Because oftentimes you can give those people way, way more value, and they're also more interested to actually pay higher prices for the events that you want to do. So really think about who is your audience, or is it just women, or is it just like a specific group? In general, I think when you're targeting nomads, the most interesting audience is the ones who don't know about Bansko Nomad Fest, who don't know about Nomad Cruise and all these other events, and who just really want to change their life. Because once they get onto these events, then you will open up their minds, they will connect, they will come back to your events. So if you're targeting audience, that could be really, really interesting to think about, really, like, who do you want to bring on board? Because everyone also is then willing to spend different amounts of money for this. And you need to have a certain margin in order to even be able to organize these events, and so that you can pay yourself as well, right? So another thing that I've seen with many people is that they want to just connect to a lot of people. So you have no friends, you're traveling around the world, you're lonely, and then you're like, oh, I want to organize a retreat in Mexico, and just put this out there because I really want to connect to other people. So this doesn't really work, because the first people, in my opinion, who will join your event are people that you already know. So they are your friends, or they are people that you met at conferences or whatsoever. On the first Nomad Cruise, we had over 100 people who joined, but what has been before was that I did 4 years of community building. I organized a lot of meetups in Tarifa. I spoke at 3 or 4 different conferences. I had friends in the German digital nomad space who were like famous travel bloggers. So when I launched the first cruise, all these things came together, and I had built a Facebook group of over 5,000 members. So then within 3 weeks, we had over 100 people who booked this cruise. But really, I've done 4 years of work in order to do that. I'm not saying you need to do also 4 years of work in order to build it, but it is really, really helpful to have some audience and to have people that you can ask like, hey, would you be interested to join my event? Because really, the more people you know, the easier it will be. People are not, like, they can see an ad. If you don't have any proof of concept or anything, even if the idea is really, really good, they're very, very unlikely to buy it, because you also need to keep in mind they have other priorities as well, right? Like they always wanted to go to Bora Bora or Australia, or they want to visit their friends. So when we are making decisions about going on vacation or retreat, it's not just about that you have a beautiful retreat, but it's really about thinking what else is on people's minds. So think about how long have you been thinking about going to Bansko Nomad Fest, and then you eventually went. I saw Matthias starting Bansko and opening the co-living here. That was, I think it was almost 10 years ago. I'm not really sure. But I saw this for 5 years until I went to the first event, and I only went to the third event. So it takes time. And also keep that in mind when you're doing your event. In the beginning, it's very, very hard. But then people will tell you like, yeah, you know, I've been watching you. Like there's still people coming now on the cruise who've been watching the cruise for 10 years and had this in their newsletter. And then they say like, yeah, I've been following your newsletter for 10 years, and now I finally come, and I wish I could have joined earlier. So this is really important to keep in mind, that when you're launching something and when you build, that you build something a little bit before, that you already have some connections. You can just go to Berlin and organize digital nomad meetups if you want to get into retreats, but just do something where you can connect to your audience. That definitely helps a lot. Okay, so don't overcommit to venues, negotiate flexibility, okay? So oftentimes we think, okay, well, I'm gonna, book out this whole hotel, 20 rooms, or like a whole ship. It's really, really good. You can be like quite confident in organizing events, but it's really good to, like the venues are usually the most expensive thing. And it's very good to first keep in mind, like you can tell them like, look, I'm gonna launch this event, and then I will tell you 2 weeks later how many cabins, how many rooms I take, or if I take the event. So you first you can just block the event or the venue which you want to use. You just need to block it for 2 weeks. You prepare a nice launch, and then afterwards you can tell the owner, you can say like, okay, I'm gonna take this, or like, let me know a little bit more. When we are organizing the cruise, we are negotiating with the cabins all the time. Once I had to pay 50 cabins that I couldn't sell. So that was like a cruise a long time ago. Then I bought like about 3 months before departure, I just ordered another 100 cabins. And I thought like, oh, we're making sales every day. And then like some political news came about the countries where we were gonna go, and like just the sales just stopped. And so I had 100 cabins, and I managed to still sell 50, but the other 50 I just had to pay. And all I would have needed to do was to say, okay, look, is there like a way that I can let you know in 3 weeks again, and I can share an update, or I can return 50 cabins or whatsoever. So these negotiations are super important, because I know a lot of people who have booked venues, and then they are just on all that money, and then all your margin, everything is gone. So keep that in mind. Another really, really important thing, every event starts with a survey and not a sale, okay? So when you want to launch something, after a while it's okay, like you can just put these things on sale. But what I want to say with that is like, you actually want to find out what people really want, because then you can use their words in order to market to them. So the other thing is as well that when you are doing a survey, yeah, you can see that there's a lot of interest. Actually, in the past, we only used to organize transatlantic trips from Spain to Brazil, or from Spain to the Dominican Republic, different ones. And I said to them, like, I was asking our people, like, hey, what about if we just do a trip in Europe? And everyone was like, no way. No, we just want to do transatlantic. There's just sea days. We love this. We just want to escape the winter. But I was thinking like, okay, well, let me put out the survey. And the interesting thing was that in my audience, all the alumni, everyone who's been already before, they all wanted to do these transatlantic trips. But the people who did not book, they all wanted to do the Europe trip. So now we just organized this Europe trip. The Europe trip is full of newbies, full of people who have never been on Nomad Cruise before. And that's like a very, very easy entrance to bring people on board. And then afterwards, they're also willing to do like something in Asia or something that's a little bit longer. But like really think, where you can start. And sometimes in your audience, just listening only to your paying customers is also not the right thing, because you can also listen to those people who are in your email list, okay? So doing these surveys really helps. And the other thing that is really, really important is that you need to do these things. You need to start a survey, launch a wait list. Just this helps you to build momentum. Like for the cruise that we're doing to Asia, we still haven't announced the route on Instagram. Like we shared this in the email list and everything, but we haven't done this on Instagram. All we said is we're going to Asia, and we just built a wait list of 300 people where we know, okay, they are interested to go to Asia around February, and then we can like slowly sell these spots. So really, a big mistake that I see sometimes with people is they say, this is my retreat, this is the price, buy it. So nobody's ready to buy. You did not warm up the audience. You didn't really do anything in order to make people aware, like on the 14th of April, the tickets will go on sale or whatsoever. So it's really about doing this. And also we are doing oftentimes webinars to launch the event. It's not just to do the webinar, but also this gives us the reason to send people 5 emails to really make sure that everyone is actually listening to us. Because if I just send out 1 email that there's a webinar tomorrow, nobody will show up. So we really, it's all about getting attention, and we need to build this up in different ways. And the more we do it, the more we can eventually sell. So another thing, design the event for your audience and not yourself. I said this before already. If it's just about you want to connect more with people and that's why you organize the event, I would really not recommend to organize a Nomad event, because it's much better to just attend events. You don't have all the stress. Oftentimes, like, I can also not really enjoy the cruise because I'm like so busy. There's like so many things. There's always like 2 or 3 people complaining a lot, causing a lot of headaches. Everyone else is happy. Yeah, but so it's really the event, like when you're getting into event organization, it's really not about yourself. It's not about putting yourself on the stage the whole time and speaking there. Like we are really trying to bring everyone on board, because the more connection you're creating on your event, the more likely these people are coming back. And I mean, we are all going more to events in order to connect with each other than to listen to speakers, right? So we can have really famous speakers attending the events. This doesn't mean at all that more people will book it or whatsoever. It's really about building connection, doing like masterminds, doing like different ways of how people can interact, how they can pitch, how they can be on stage. So really think when you design the event that it's for yourself. My goal with organizing Nomad Cruise was just, I wanted to connect to other people. I did not want to put myself on the stage. And I wanted to build like a really, really cool experience that I wish I could have had. So that was my main purpose in doing that. And when you're building something, like maybe think more from the customer perspective, like what is the event that I wish I could go to, where I could be the participant and I could really, really enjoy this. And so for me, I always found it a little bit, difficult to connect and like go always into like groups of strangers. So I just made it really, really easy for everyone to connect on the ship. And that has been working pretty well. So another one, timing is key for the launch and the event itself. The reason I'm saying that is if you launch an event like right now in summer when everyone is on vacation, it's probably not the best time, right? Nobody is ready to go to an event or to book something now. So think about that when you're launching, like what is actually happening right now? Is it summertime? Is it already like starting to snow? Do people really want to leave now? Are they ready? Like in what mood are people at the moment who want to go to an event? And then for the event as well, right? So the cruises that we do, they are always like kind of the ones that we do at the end of the season, or like around September, October, is always kind of winter escapes. So everyone wants to leave Europe or the States in order to travel together and go somewhere. So it's really, really nice timing for people to go and and travel together. And then some will just go for the event, and others will actually stick around for a long time. So really think. Also, like a good time to organize events is, for example, just after New Year's, okay? Don't organize something around the 15th of December because a lot of people want to go back for Christmas. So if you want to do something like around November, beginning of November is good, or like January, February, these are also really good months. Or spring, when all the nomads are coming back to Europe, right? So that's also really, really good timing. Also not such a good timing to organize something like now around June because there are so many nomads coming here to the Nomad Fest, right? So keep this in mind. You can have an amazing event, but maybe it's just not the right timing. So another thing is it's important to be unique with locations and with formats. It's not enough anymore just to organize a co-living event. Think about like what is there and where can I fill this niche. I mean, we did with the cruise, there's nobody really else who's doing that, so that makes it quite easy for us to be unique in that sense. Or then we did also a trip to Antarctica. We are always doing like a few different things, but you can do this also with events. So you can think, okay, I love snowboarding. There's no snowboarding digital nomad experience in Japan yet, right? So this is something we want to do after our Asia trip. But also, if someone here wants to organize this, please let me know, and then we can do this together, right? So there's a lot of things, a lot of sports, bringing a specific audience together. Maybe do like a 7-figure digital nomad retreat in a 5-star luxury hotel. This is a much smaller audience, but it's much more likely to sell because just co-living, we have this everywhere. You can go to Bansko and you can just go here to co-living, right? So bring a specific audience together, ideally an audience who's willing to pay for the event as well. So do something maybe like 4 or 5-star experiences. There I think there's a lot that can still be done, and that I don't really see around. Your first event shouldn't be about profit, but proof of concept, testimonials, and content creation. So really, if you think, I just need to make 20,000 euros for the first event, and it's just a way to make money, it's probably not going to work because you're going to price the event way too high when you launch it, and you don't really have proof of concept or whatsoever. When we did the first cruise, the cruise to Brazil was like a super cheap travel deal. It was only 300 euros. So it was 300 euros. It was 500 euros all inclusive. We just met on the ship, and there was like a huge kind of demand for people to meet because there were not so many events around, and I had built all these things before. So all these factors came together to make it possible to do this for so many people. Now these days are nowhere around anymore, but like I just want to say, it's really not about trying to make profit, but just like kind of covering your costs and like showing people like, hey, I've done this event. So oftentimes it's also good just to ask a few friends like, hey, do you want to come? I want to organize this retreat. Want to try to get some more people on board. Maybe you can help me a little bit. It's really just about like, here, this is what we're doing. We're doing this as a test run. You don't need to say it's a test run, but talk to a few friends who maybe want to come as well and say, I want to organize this retreat. I want to go to this hotel. Are you in? And then I want to launch this a little bit more. So yeah, I mean, when we launched the cruise, also it was just, I just shared the idea to meet on this cruise ship, and then everything else really came afterwards. But yeah, I made no money because everyone booked it directly with the cruise line, and we sold these t-shirts that you can see there, the second person, and the logo. I made a logo and a flag and a website. But this helped me, and so 6 months later, we organized another cruise for 200 people. Okay, so yeah. It's really about content creation, testimonials, showing that you're doing this, and then you will get the rewards later. Create a realistic budget, and don't underestimate your required margins. I could also talk hours about this, but what I can say is the first 4 years, we made almost no profits. And there are still some cruises even today, even though we do actually have quite high margins, where it's really not worth all the effort that we're putting into this. It is just sometimes you cannot underestimate all the cost, everything that comes into organizing events. So it's really important to have some kind of margin that you have there and like to really try to figure out. Oftentimes, one of the best ways how you can like actually really make this profitable is to really try to negotiate with the hotels or with your providers so that you get a really, really low deal. And then you already have a nice margin where you can then add on top of this. But don't underestimate it. Think a little bit about like what you need, what's the required budget. Okay, now we'll talk a little bit more about the launch and marketing. So this is the biggest problem. Nomads have commitment issues. Solve that, okay? So the biggest problem there's like no intention to talk about any one of these people on the photo or anything, okay? I didn't choose that photo, but I just go to the next slide. Okay, so, but the biggest problem is that we don't want to make plans, right? We just want to buy the ticket for Bansko Nomad Fest 1 day before, and then it would be the biggest failure, this event, right? So it's absolutely fair that they raise the price or that they double the price or they could even charge 3 times more for anyone who just decides to buy 1 day before the event, because you're not helping the organizers to make this event happen. In order to organize the cruise, I need to know 6-7 months before if you want to be part of this. And we need to collect the deposit just to be sure that in case you don't decide to come, then we have this deposit so we can use that deposit to market to someone else. Or we can, you know, we have a little bit of your buy-in. If we don't have this, we cannot organize the event. It's way too risky to commit to like 200 cabins or to any type of event if we don't have this, if we don't have this. For that reason, people who book the cruise now 7 months in advance, they pay 1,000 euros less than someone who buys 1 week before. And most likely there will also not be any more tickets. But you need to use these price. You should not raise the price then by 1,000 euros. You can raise the price slowly, but what I found is we can announce the best speakers, we can talk about the best program. There's hardly any sales when we do this. But when we say that the price goes up 300 euros, then everyone buys, okay? And you can, so a good way to market an event is to say, okay, you launch for a really good early bird price, and then you talk about the event, you say like these are the speakers, you get more speakers on board, so you build a little bit of a story, of a momentum around your event, and then you are like surprised that nobody will buy because you say like, hey, now I have all these things here and still nobody buys. But then you just say like, okay, on Sunday we are raising the price and then people will buy, okay? Don't raise your price every week, but maybe every month. You can increase it a little bit. Also, when you look at massive festivals, that's what they do all the time. They just increase the price sometimes by 20, 30 euros, but there's always a price increase, and the price increase is what drives sales, okay? So market the event, increase the price. Market more, increase the price. That's by far the best way how this has been working for us. And actually it took me quite a while to figure this out. I was always like, why is no one doing this now? And then, and then you can use like different other tactics to get people to buy. But really, it's not about like trying to do some marketing. Like we really need to know this, right? Like we really need to know now if you're coming and not 2 weeks before, because it just puts a lot of stress. And I mean, I so much prefer to have an event sold out 3-4 months in advance, because then we can really focus on making the event amazing, right? So that's really, really key. Incentivize participants to bring friends. So we have an affiliate program. Actually, I'm thinking to change the affiliate program a little bit instead of paying out money to just give presents. So I had a conversation yesterday with Annalyn. She's got like an affiliate agency, and she was saying like people don't really want to make money bringing friends on board. So instead of doing that, we can give away like free drink packages or like different other things. I haven't really been diving into this, but like it's very likely that apart from just like paying people in order to bring their friends, that we will just give like presents, and those people who are like influencers, creators who want to bring people on board, there we can talk about like financial incentives. But it's really, really good to do something for your participants to encourage them to bring others on board. But think a little bit about this, like giving a nice upgrade or other things than financial things. That's what we will probably adjust a little bit. Another way that's working really, really well, especially if you have something that's a little bit more higher priced, it's not feasible for like for an event which is like 300, 700 euros. But if you're 1,000, well, around 2,000 and above, around this level, it's really good to use applications and calls to boost connection and sales. So we've been doing this actually a lot more only recently, and it's been working really, really well. And this actually really helps us to sell any event and to grow. What I want to say with that is like, I told you in the beginning that many people have been in our newsletter since 10 years, and they always think like, oh yeah, maybe one day I can join or whatsoever. If they would have talked to someone who's part of our sales team to learn about the cruise, this person would have told them like, yeah, you know, like you make all these connections now, like this will pay off much better in the future if you're actually joining the event now. Or there are always different objections that people have in order to come on your events. So really doing these sales calls or having an application system, even if you're just, you know, even if you're just organizing a yoga retreat, that can work, right? So if you just need to fill 12 spots, at least the commitment is not so high. So you can just say like, okay, you want to come, fill out the application. So now you already know, okay, out of these 100 people, actually only these people are really interested in coming, in joining. So now I have a list of 20 people. I can invite them for a call, right? When I do the call, they are much more likely to buy and to come to your event. If you don't know who wants to apply, you don't know who really wants to come, you cannot build a specific connection with them. And what's working really well is just having like WhatsApp conversations or Instagram DMs. Like sometimes people follow Nomad Cruise and then they would get the message and we would say like, hey, you want to come jump on a call or whatsoever. So this really, really helps to make time for these calls and have some kind of application, because it helps you to filter out those people who are actually interested in coming to your event versus those who just, who already know like, okay, well, I'm going to be at the wedding, so I cannot go. Like, there's no way that I can make it for the event, okay? So applications and sales really, really help to build the connection and to really fill. But then, in order to do this, you need to have the margin, right? So you need to, that's why, yeah, like actually this is also one reason why we are increasing the price, because we need to then pay for ads. We need to pay someone who's doing the sales calls and to do this. So someone who basically buys much later, we need to pay 400 euros in order to get these people on board. And and that's part of the price, right? So in the beginning, when you're selling an event, it's more about just making your profit and your margin, and later you need to also invest money into getting these customers with ads, with sales calls, and whatsoever. And this should not be in your normal margin, but you just add this on top, and then those people can also pay for it, okay? Also know, so another really thing that I learned about influencers and content creators, there's no influencer or content creator on this photo, is that they are really good to attract or like to say, you know, hey, I'm going on the cruise, and this gives a lot of likes, but sales, not really. So why is that? Because you really need to help people. If you have people who market your event, you really need to help them to also make the sale. So it's good if you have someone who helps you to market the event. You need to, you can either you can like really provide information, but it's often that, if someone just shares about Nomad Cruise, that's not enough. It's not enough to just say like, hey, there's a cruise ship, and that's really not the part of your creator or influencer that you're working with, right? So you need to give them. You could organize a webinar together with them. You could say like, hey, let's jump on a call together, and you just bring all your audience, and then we will talk together about the cruise. Also, oftentimes when you have a deal where someone just shares the event once, that's just like, it's a waste of money, okay? So really, when you're inviting people for your event and you want them to help you to fill the spots, you really need to have like a good agreement. And like, I think, in my opinion, you can also provide them with content about your event so that they can announce that they are coming. You can give them like a special code. This is also, I think, just this is another 1 hour talk about how I would do it different. And we will do it different in the future. But just to say, even if someone has like 1 million followers, doesn't mean that you're making one sale from that person. And also, oftentimes, it's very, very important that you agree with them that they don't delete a post like 2 weeks after they share about your event, right? So just that their timeline or everything looks beautiful. So it's really, really important to have agreements when you're working with content creators. And it's also really important that you think a little bit about the sales strategy that you want to apply, because just throwing this out will always, like, sometimes it will cover the cost, but it's also a lot of, it's a lot of work also, to do all these collaborations. So I believe that there's great ways to do it, but that would be for another talk. Okay, so now, during the event, design for connection, not just content, okay? You want your audience that's coming to your event, you want them to connect really, really well, because the best and the easiest sales are always to get people who join your event to join again in the future. So Nomad Cruise has got a return rate of about 40%, people who are coming back, and many people who've been coming 5, 6, 7 times on the cruise. That is also because we are thinking a lot about designing for connection and not just like having a conference. So the more you connect people, the more you give them the chance to meet a lot of other people, the more likely you will get those people back onto your event. And it's really, really, important to keep that in mind, because I mean, now in the first 15 minutes, I've just been talking about how you can actually get those people, right? The easiest is just to bring your audience back for other events. Day one sets the tone for everything. This is also really, really important. When you're doing like an opening of your event, really share some values, share what you want to achieve, talk about like that we really don't like too much negativity, or, if you're unhappy with something, come to us. Just set some rules for the event. I mean, just ask ChatGPT, what are some good things to open an event, and, to get all these inputs. But it's really, really important that when you start your event, that really sets the tone. And there's always things that go wrong at every event. So you kind of like need to set the expectations right, so that when people are unhappy, they can come to you, but also just to really connect people, right? Like what we do is we have a welcome ceremony. It's actually quite short, and then we have 30-second pitches. So everyone who wants to say something to the entire audience can go on stage and say something. And this really connects the entire group, the entire 300 people who are joining, because in these 30-second pitches, you will already find like 5 or 6 people you really want to talk to. And like this, we bring all the different connections and people together, because everyone is different, and we want to give everyone the possibility to really meet their crowd on the ship. So just these 30-second pitches really change the entire dynamics of the event when you just have these people on board in the beginning. Use shared experiences to build loyalty. This is another really, really important thing. I once read this somewhere, and I mean, it's quite, friendships are made by experiences. Okay, you can go to a conference, you talk to someone 5-10 minutes, and you see them again every year at a conference, but that doesn't really create a bond. If you're going on a 3-day trip or you're like really spending time together, this really creates friendships. So keep that in mind. Like, friendships are created by experiences and not just like networking. Turn your attendees into your team. Like, I mean, what we do a lot is when I see people like who are really like very positive, like who are like super much connecting with everyone, or who are like very proactive and suggesting things, then we usually bring them into our volunteer team, or they become part of the Nomad Cruise team. So that's usually like how we're bringing new people on board. We always look at our events, like who's really there, who's really giving, who's really doing something, and that's how we get them on board. It's the best way to just organize the event and always look there, okay, who do we want to make part of our team? Sell the next event before this one ends, okay? Also, so important. So we're doing this trip to Asia in February, 7 to 14. And what we did on the last cruise is that we announced this during the cruise, and already 80 people bought this. So about 40% of the participants already bought the trip for going to Asia. Of course, we gave them the best price in order to jump on board, but really the reason is you have to do this, especially if you have bigger events. Everyone is in the mood when they are on board, when they are at the event, or maybe like 1 or 2 days after the event. Then once you're out of it, you're like, okay, well, I'll think about it later whatsoever. So this is like the easiest way to fill your next event, to say at the end of the event, like, okay, well, by the way, next time we're going to Greece and we're having a beautiful retreat there, and everyone is like, yeah, okay. So really, that's just for small retreats, right? You're creating connection, you're creating new friendships at your events. Have something to sell at the end of the event, and give everyone a special prize, and just say like, hey, we need your commitment in order to make this again. You have to do it like this. If you just announce it like 2 weeks later, almost nobody will buy this. We did this as well. Like, once I announced the cruise, but it took me 3 months to launch it because there were some issues with the contract. So that was 1.5 years ago. We announced a trip that was going from our last trip from Canada to Japan. And I had already announced this on a cruise to Brazil, and everyone was super stoked to go on that trip, and they said like, yeah, I want to buy this. But I had some issues to organize the contract and everything. And then in the end, from all these Brazil people, where I think we would have gotten 40% or 50% on board of this journey, only maybe 15% joined, because it was way, way later, right? And then it's like, oh, are you going to this trip? No, I'm not going. So really, really think and sell at your event already the next experience. You can even say like, you don't even need to have the venue, right? You just say like, okay, now we organized this event in Italy. Next one is going to be in Greece. I will announce the dates later. You can already put down a deposit here, 500 euros, and then I will share, all details or whatsoever later. Even if you cannot fully commit, but have something to sell, it's the easiest and it's the best way, and it will save you so much work. Because also, keep in mind, once people have signed up for your event, they will share this with other people, which will also bring more people. Like, usually when we are announcing new events, over 50% of the sales is what we make in the first 1 or 2 weeks. Okay, after the event, create after-event experience to deepen loyalty. So actually I don't have so much time. I will go a bit faster now. So when we did the cruise, initially my idea was just, I wanted to make it easier for people to travel South America together, because I had been traveling by myself in South America for like 10 months, hardly met any nomads, always had to like reconnect from every place. And I thought, wow, there's a cruise ship going to Brazil. how about like we all jump on this cruise ship and then we can all travel together. So this was my initial idea, and then only the whole concept of the cruise evolved from there. But really what basically is so important is that, you know, maybe you can make some suggestions what people can do right after the event, just so that they have some more time to spend together. And again, this will also connect them better. It will create a much better community experience. You're not making any money with this, but you already had them at the event, right? So it's really what I see is when we are always organizing like things after the Asia trip. We are organizing things in Japan, in Vietnam, in Taiwan. That's all free for everyone who's on the ship, but it will really create this community, because just in 6 days on the cruise, you meet a lot of people, but you need to kind of travel together, right? So if Bansko would say, okay, like after this conference, we have another 3 weeks here for everyone who wants to stick a bit more together, and they would phrase this a little bit more, that could really help a lot more to bring everyone here much more better together, and more people would come again next year. So get feedback and share wins. I'm not, yeah, I don't have much time. Really important, do a survey, learn from what you did, and then do this better the next time. Really important to listen to what they have to say to you. And then again, build for the long game, right? So if you want to get into retreats, I've now been doing this for over 10 years, or this is the 10th year. And obviously this builds a lot of momentum over time, right? So things just get easier after time. But if you just, I think it's an amazing business that you can do, and it makes sense. But if you just want to do like 1 or 2 retreats, it's maybe it's a little bit too tricky or too difficult to get into this. But yeah, like stick with this, learn from it, learn from your audience, and then it can be amazing. So I hope that you got a little bit out of this. Thank you.